Hey, hey.
How's everybody doing? Welcome. And today, I think one of the things we wanted to talk about was about how relationships after the honeymoon phase
Require work.
they do. Yeah, they do. If any of y'all have read our book or know our story, which you probably do by now.
Or not.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
First 10 years of our marriage, we didn't know what the fuck we were doing.
They kind of sucked. Well, the first year or two were great, and then the next 8 kind of sucked.
Actually, that's true. So let me rephrase that. The first 2 to 3 years, I would say, were awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of new changes, though. We moved. We had a kid. They talk about the things that put the most strain on your relationship are moving,
Having
kids,
a child,
and what's another
new
one?
jobs, and we did all that in the first 6 months of our marriage.
And
I think.
deaths in the family. We had that too.
We had that too.
So we overcame all that, flying colors, and
thank God we were madly in love.
But the pitfall that happens is when you come through that in what we like to call eros, which is what it is.
Eros. You want to tell them what that means?
It's a stage of love. The Greeks have several words for love.
Yep.
Which is why we like to use
the Greek words, because there's so many of them that are more descriptive of what love really is. When we say I love my spouse the same as I love this hamburger, it's a little bit confusing.
It sure is. And I get confused by that all the time because I get jealous as shit over hamburgers sometimes. Anywho.
Whatever I'm chewing, I feel like that you're not really that jealous. Maybe a popsicle.
So the first 10 years, so we came through that, and what we did, which is what I think a lot of couples do, because you just don't have the tools. You don't really know. We were young, or Sam was young. I wasn't.
You were youngish.
I was a lot younger than I am now.
We both were.
But I think, and it's probably a little bit overused already, but you kind of birdbox it a little bit in that you feel like, wow, we came through all this shit together. We're awesome. We could do this shit blindfolded.
Yeah. And I think we both thought that.
Yeah. And then 5 years in,
then we're like, oh,
what's
happening? Why aren't we madly in love still?
Yeah.
And then we learned more about how that actually works. When you're madly in love, all those chemicals flooding in your brain, the oxytocin and the dopamine that keep you super happy when you're madly in love. Well designed, by the way. Way to go, God. Like, I don't know if people would even get together and have children if it weren't for those drugs. I mean, it's like crack. True. There's actually been a study that says that those drugs are very similar to crack cocaine.
Well, they fire off the same receptors in your brain.
Exactly. They fire off all the same chemicals.
Anyway, we're going down the...
Yeah, we're on a little bit of a tangent. But I know you can rope us back in. We are not boring anyone. This is exciting.
You're boring the tits off of our listeners right now.
No, you're boring. You're boring the tits off.
Anyway, our issue was 5-6 years in, when things weren't as rosy as they were in the beginning, or they took a little bit more work. Instead of working harder to pull the nose up and fix it, which we would totally do now if we could go back over, because we know that a lot of the pitfalls that we were in and how to get out of them, which we didn't know before. But what you end up doing in those situations is kind of blaming the other person why you're not happy anymore. Would you agree?
Yeah. I think what happens, because I think Hollywood, especially in romance novels, they sell you this bill of goods. Like, if you pick the right person, then all is going to be beautiful and happy, and happily ever after is going to happen in this magical way. And that's going to be the end of the story, like it is in a movie.
Yes.
And now I believe that's not it. It's not true. I mean, a lot of what makes a great relationship great isn't picking the perfect person. I mean, if you think about that, I'm going to go on another tangent. First of all, there's no such thing as perfect. And if you think about like trying to find the one person that was designed for you on the planet, is that really even realistic? That is an error. That is I think it's a Plato thing. Plato or Aristotle, one of those Greek philosophers, had this whole story about how we used to actually be beings that were just one, and then through some weird things of the gods, we got separated, and now we're really looking for our other half.
Who was the guy before Plato? Who taught
Socrates?
So that might be Socrates. Socrates.
It could be him. I can't remember. We can go back to the literature and see if anybody gives a shit. But the idea is that we used to be one, that men and women were one form, and then they got separated, and we're looking for that, our one perfect half that used to be the other part of us. I just think it's bullshit.
Well, it is bullshit.
How do you?
Well, because I'm happily married to you, and you're far from perfect.
Nobody said anything about being a perfect. Well, actually, I guess
you might think you were the perfect. Let's talk about that for a second, because if we split from the same being cell, whatever you want to call it,
then we wouldn't be so opposite.
No, I mean, I think if we were both the exact same as me, or both the exact same as you, we would have been divorced probably 3 years into our marriage.
Yeah, because it gets so boring.
Yeah. Anyway, that we're rabbit holing. The bottom line is that
happens a lot on this podcast.
We should just change the name of it to the Relationship Rabbit Hole.
All right, take us back to the point.
The point of this nugget of wisdom is that relationships, the faster you understand that they take a little bit of work, and that it's just like,
or a lot of bit of work, depending on where you are.
I mean, it's a practice like anything else. If you want to be good at it, and if you want to have a great one, then you got to devote some time to it. Nothing is easy that lasts, except for you.
Don't lie. Don't lie to our audience.
You're easy.
I am now. I'm the sure thing, honey. That's a whole other episode, though.
Yep, the sure thing, and why I married her.
That's not true either.
So, just the tip.
Are we wrapping up already?
Yeah, I think so. Why not?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of want to get more into the migration to Eros to Pragma.
That's kind of a longer podcast. I think we ought to do a whole episode on where we walk through the different kinds of love, what they mean, and then if you can recognize them, how much better certain other stages are once you get past Eros. Because a lot of people think that euphoria, you'll never. I'm talking to you.
You're not. You're looking. I don't even know what you're looking at.
I think better when I stare at an inanimate object.
All right, baby. I don't want to. Sorry, did I wreck your train of thought?
Nobody's watching the video anyway.
You don't know.
Anyway, how much better some of those other levels of love are than that super high rush that you get from the Eros. And I know several people who are just kind of addicted to that, and they've never really been married longer than 3 or 4 years, and they're on their 5th or 6th marriage, and that's it.
Well, and what's interesting is
Liz Taylor.
Yeah, what's interesting about that phase of love is how much it's lifted up as like the ultimate love, and yet the Greeks,
only by Hollywood,
our society, yeah, I mean our whole culture
and
really
Hans
thinks.
Christian Andersen.
Yeah, there's baby. You can just keep going on and on. It's not like it's one person who thinks that. But what's interesting about that kind of love is that it's described as love sick, madly in love, like mad, like crazy. These are not positive ways of describing love. Like it's all encompassing. It makes you, they're negative. There's a lot of negative metaphors for love, because in that phase it is super intense. And I think what I want to say, maybe we are getting to just the tip, is that kind of love is not meant to last.
It's not meant to last, but
it doesn't last.
The tip, just the tip, the real tip, is what I said in the beginning, and that is that it, and what we started talking about. Now, I'm going to cut you off there because.
So I have a different tip. We have a double.
You can't have a different tip. That your
double,
tip.
This is a double tipped episode.
Ooh, double ender. Your tip. Your tip is going to be better served when we talk about all the different kinds of love, right? And the sustainability of the first kind of love, which is Eros. What the point of this podcast was supposed to be.
Sorry, baby.
Was about how relationships take a little bit of work, and when we figured that out, we went through 10 years of marriage. We were separated for a year, lived apart. We got back together. It was when we figured out that it took a little bit of work, and we started putting more effort into it. We started learning a lot more. We started trying new things, and Our relationship has been better and better and better throughout the years because of it. So it's the work part, which was just the tip. Don't bird box your marriage. Don't bird box your relationship.
Yeah.
Birdbox challenge it. Sorry.
Don't walk blindly through it.
Right. Don't just trust everything's going to be there without any work, because it just isn't.
Although I think that's never mind. I'm going to mess up your just the tip.
It is my tip. You said it was a double ender, though, so go. You're going to get all of our listeners.
I'm just going to confuse things. I'm just going to say that I don't know that walking through life with the blindfold on is all that easy either.
Nobody said it was easy. What I meant,
and that it doesn't take work. I think that if you were walking through life so this is interesting. If you're walking through life with a blindfold on, it actually is probably more work than opening your eyes, recognizing what the work is, and just fucking doing it.
Oh, that's a solid point, in that we often make more work for ourselves because we don't want to do the actual work.
Yeah, because we put our blindfolds on and think it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And we try to ignore seeing what's happening in our relationships. And instead of acknowledging it and addressing it, we're like, oh, it's going to be fine. If I just pretend like it's not happening and put this blindfold on, all will be well.
And then 60% of your assets later, you realize how much work that actually was.
Yeah. And half of us are not together anymore.
And perhaps if we 60% just of our assets.
Yeah.
And that's only if you had an equitable divorce where the lawyers got 10.
Yeah. Well, very good point. So can you summarize just the tip again, but like in a different way?
Just because you forgot it doesn't mean our listeners did.
Well, we just I feel like we
don't bird box your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a little bit of effort, but the effort is so worth it. Put the time in and you won't regret it.
Because if you take the blindfold off, it'll be less work in the end anyway.
Okay. So you're
to make your relationship better.
Nice tip, honey.
I'm just making the tip of your tip more appealing.
Oh boy. All right. Thanks for listening.
And that's the end. Thanks, everybody.